Would you agree that the diversity of anglers on the water is as important as the diversity of native fish species in the streams we love? And is there anything more important than providing opportunities for the kids of the world to get outdoors and to get on the water? Today's guest has created multiple nonprofits, and today you're going to find out how to get involved this year. So you're going to enrich more lives of kids and people around the country. This is the Wet Fly Swing podcast, where we show you the best places to travel to for fly fishing, how to find the best resources and tools to prepare for that big trip, and what you can do to give back to the fish species we all love. This is Dave. I'm host of the Wet Fly Swing podcast. I've been fly fishing since I was a little kid. I grew up around a fly shop, and we've created one of the largest fly fishing podcasts in this country. And I've also interviewed more of the greatest fly anglers, both men and women, than just about anyone out there. Heather Hodson, spey fishing addict and founder of United Women on the Fly, is going to give us an update on what she's got going with her new organization, iFishiBelong.org. We're going to find out about the fly shop survey they produced and how it sheds light on the effects of women in around fly shops. We're going to talk about that a little bit, and fly fishing. And we're going to find out why we need faster change, more change, and faster. And we're also going to hear about some of the events they have coming. All right, I think we found a person that is even crazy busier than me. Here we go. Heather Hodson from iFishiBelong.org. How you doing, Heather?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Great. Yeah, this is pretty awesome. I love doing these episodes where occasionally we'll have people back on. It was 2018, about the same time, probably a little earlier. It's been about 6 years. I know I've seen your name out there a lot, so it's not like I haven't seen what you have going, but it's been a while since you've done a podcast with us. How have things been the last 6 years?
Wow. Things have been rolling. And, we had this thing known as a pandemic that happened, and being a nurse, that's my real job. It's been an interesting role, but yeah, still fishing, still getting after it, still doing everything that I do, and more so, always kind of stirring the pot and trying to push for change. So that'll never end in my lifetime.
Yeah, that's right. It feels like you always have something going. Originally we talked a little bit about West Slope Cuddies, but also about United Women on the Fly, and now I know you're doing some stuff with Trout Routes. We're doing some stuff with them. I just talked to Eric this morning and had a chat about we're brainstorming some ideas in the coming year and stuff. So I think it's pretty awesome. You seem like one of those people that, do you always have to be busy with something, or do you feel like, are you ever taking time off?
I never take, my brain is always rolling. And I think that's probably why I don't have kids, is because this is my child, right? This is my kind of passion project, and it's just always rolling. And Eric, my husband, he's also, and we're workaholics. Like, we work way too much, but that's how we roll, and that's how we kind of thrive in life, I guess. So yeah, I'm always going, always doing something.
Totally. No, I hear you. I'm kind of a similar way. And I think the cool thing is that you're always, it seems like, doing really cool projects. The United Women on the Fly feels like I'm not sure how much it's grown, but it feels like, it's out there everywhere. And then this new thing we're going to talk about today, iFishiBelong, I think there's some connections with everything you have going. But yeah, maybe give us a little update on United Women on the Fly. Does everything connect to iFishiBelong, or maybe give us a little update on how that United Women on the Fly is going?
Yeah. United is still going strong. We have an incredible team of women, and we are celebrating 8 years.
Oh, wow. It's 8 years.
8 years in September. And so it's pretty incredible just to see the amount of change that's happened really within the community, and just how many women want to be involved, how many women want to be seen. I would say that it's definitely slower on the push for change within the industry. And that's kind of where iFishiBelong is kind of falling into place with that. But United is just, it's going strong. It's incredible. Kind of the whole thought with United Women on the Fly is like, we are advocating for women to get out there, to be seen, to be fishing, educated, and just empowering them to be independent anglers. And that's the biggest part of it. And just allowing them a space or creating a space where women can come together and connect and, tell fishing tales, but also get intel, sleep on someone's couch or connect with somebody to go and travel, and kind of on a budget-friendly basis. we all, we all have different socioeconomic paths in our lives. And so how can people get out there? And so trying to connect women. And at the end of the day, when we were looking at it all, it's great to advocate for women. It's great to advocate for kids, but we need everybody to come together to make change. And that's where iFishiBelong is coming into play. So I looked at trying to start a nonprofit, and definitely United Will Fly was in the back of my mind. Should I start a nonprofit that's going to be United Will Fly? And I just decided that I want to make true change with all people. And so that's where I belong. So it's not just advocating for women. We got to bring everybody, it's 2025. We got to bring everybody together to make change.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's kind of crazy because, we are right now, it's late October, November's coming soon, and we've got an election. And it seems like things are crazy with politics. They've been kind of crazy. It seems like we've got polarizing, the country is polarized. It feels like it's a struggle, even though we're all kind of the same people for the most part. What's your take? Do you feel like fly fishing is different than overall the country, or are you seeing similar things? Is that what you're trying to crack? Like, why did iFishiBelong? Why did you start this thing?
Yeah, I think that because we all are also polarized, that people are very sensitive to, or even if we're talking about, women and gender parity, like we're talking about trying to support or showcase more women in media or showing them, I think women, it's a much easier and palatable conversation to have. Whereas when we start to dive even deeper into, as we look at gender and we look at how people, their sexual orientation or whatever it might be, what's their ethnicity. And so those are the conversations that I think are much more scary for people to have. And so it's easy to just start with women. And if you can relate to a woman conversation, then we can start to bring in all of those other pieces. And that's kind of where iFishiBelong came into play, is that so right now with iFishiBelong, we have 4 different programs, and those 4 programs are all advocating for different groups. And the first one is the Becca Sue Klein All Kids Fish program. And that is, we are expanding a program that was really originally created in Georgia, and we're trying to expand that across the United States to where we can advocate for children like between 10 to 18 in fly fishing, in conservation, and truly in environmental stewardship. And so that's the one section. And then we have our fishing events, where our community events where we all come together. And that's where we're really trying to advocate for all socioeconomic statuses. So all budgets, like we wanted to create a space where it's DIY, kind of a DIY focus, but anybody can come. You can still get a nice hotel or hire a guide if you want. But also if you don't have the financial means, you can also, camp in your car and just DIY fish. And then Ubuntu Fly Anglers is a group that was co-founded actually by a gentleman, Bob Bartlett, that lives in Spokane with me. He's basically family. And he started this with another gentleman, Carl Crawford, and it's to advocate for Black and brown anglers. And then we have United Will Fly, which is advocating for women in fly fishing. So we have all these different programs to advocate for specific groups, but we all have to come together, all of these different groups and just the entire industry community of angling, to come together and push for, bringing all of these people along and together and empowering us, to make change.
Amazing.
It's been pretty cool. Yeah. And one thing is we're supporting all species, all techniques, and all people. So it's not just fly fishing. And so we really, we're definitely fly fishing centric right now. And that's just because obviously, I'm on the fly, and that's my background. But, we have to just work with all anglers. And in order to truly get people into fishing, it's a lot cheaper if you go conventional fishing,
It is. Is it?
Yeah. So, it's just like a way so we can support it and not look down on anybody that fishes other than fly fishing. We want to make sure we support them and empower them to still be conservationists and, environmental activists and support, the resources that we have.
Love that. I love that. I think, that makes sense. So you bring everybody together, you're giving everybody opportunities to do it. And it makes sense with, all fishing because, a lot of people get started with conventional, especially as kids. It's a great way to get started, and so that's awesome. Maybe we could do a quick check-in. I mean, I think we talked about this 6 years ago when we chatted, but, back then we had the women, the 50-50 thing, I mean, that's more of I think just an idea or a concept. It's not necessarily just about that number, but how do you think we're doing? It's been 6 years now. Fly shops, have things changed? Do you see the change? Do you talk to people? What are people thinking?
Yeah, it's actually encouraging. I would say overall, I would love to see change happen faster. So that's my general overall view. Of course, I want to see change now, but I know that it takes time, and I see that. I know that. We did, actually, it's really cool. United on the Fly did a women's fly shop survey, kind of asking, like, what are your experiences and do you feel welcomed? What do you shop for? Dressing rooms, all of that kind of stuff. And I did this survey back almost 10 years ago. And from the data from the survey prior to now, definitely women feel much more comfortable walking into shops. There's still a lot of room that, there's still a lot of room for improvement, I guess is what you could say. Shops are doing much better. There's always room for us to do better, and I guess the greatest outtakes that we took from all of the data is that, of course, women want to shop for clothing. They want to see that there's actual stuff in the fly shop that is for them. However, we know that sometimes that's not economically, you can't do that. Like, fly shops don't have the floor space, nor do they actually have the money to be able to bring in all of these women's products. So there's things that fly shops can do, such as just having a photo of a woman as soon as you walk into the fly shop, right? Like, really basic stuff. Or most women go and find a fly shop online. So if your homepage of a fly shop, have a woman on it. Like, what is their first overall impression of a specific fly shop? What is the fly shops doing as far as SEOs go? So how can they, try to attract women? Because most women go to fly shops to purchase flies, your tippet, your leaders, that kind of stuff. So you don't have to necessarily invest in all of the women's gear, but you have to invest in women in order to try to bring them into your shop and feel welcoming. And so it's kind of encouraging data for sure. We all, it's just like anglers. Like, you could be a great spey angler, but you're not a good tarpon angler, right? And so there's always room for improvement. And so even there's shops around the country that are killing it. They're doing an amazing job in supporting women and supporting all folks, all people, but there's always room for improvement. So, so we've presented it so far to 15 different fly shops across the United States. We're hoping to do more. We know that fly shops are busy, so winter is going to be kind of we're going to finish this project. And the next step of the project will be where we're going to survey the fly shops, because I know a lot of fly shops that have invested in women, but then women have not gone and purchased the products. And so then they all go on the clearance rack. So to hear from the fly shops, like, what can we as consumers do to better support fly shops? Because that's a big part of it too. So if we can take that data as well as the data of how women feel going into the fly shops, and then be able to present that to the general public, but also I think more to the industry and to present that to manufacturers. Like, if the manufacturers aren't producing the products that women want, then it's hard for fly shops to have the products because they don't even exist, right?
Yeah.
And so it's, so that's one of our women advocacy projects that we're doing with iFishiBelong, is working with fly shops and working with manufacturers, or in the future, to try to push change to just be more welcoming to all people, Yeah,
that makes sense. Yeah. And I go back to the waiters. I mean, there's all this stuff that seems like, there's plenty of stuff for guys and all that, but not as much for women. Has that changed? I mean, I know there's at least one waiter company that's all women focused, but have you seen that in the last 6 years? Are there more products out there for waiters, boots and stuff? Can you get more equipment?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And, the sizing has definitely changed. So there's different companies that offer like 13 to 15 different sizes. There's smaller companies that, like you said, that are women specific, which are awesome, because women are hard to build clothing for, because we're all so different in sizes. And I think that's a big part of it. It's also putting it back on the manufacturers and the reps to be able to educate the shops on how to sell or how to educate them on the women's products and what they are, what they consist of, but also how do you fit women in a way that it doesn't make the shop uncomfortable, nor does it make a woman uncomfortable. And so, just all these little things. But there's definitely more and more products out there. I think one of the biggest things too is, as women, we are so different in our body sizes that it's okay to wear a men's waiter, because some women just have a different body that they just fit better in a man's waiter, and that's okay, and so not to be upset by that, but just obviously this is a tool for us to go fishing. So looking at what fits us best, what's safe for us, can we move around safely? Can we wade the river safely? So looking at all of that.
Makes sense. And it doesn't have to be pink, right? The whole back
right.
of it, turn it pink and it's good. Like some women don't like pink.
No, I do. I will wear pink every day, and I
like pink. Yep.
I do. Oh yeah. And
good.
But that isn't, that's my thing. But I know when I go to New Zealand, I can't wear pink. So it's very upsetting to me to have to wear whatever. No, just kidding.
Yeah.
No, I think it's just continually having conversations with manufacturers, with, having focus groups. That's a big thing, is just pushing this, continually pushing the conversations and having women come together with the people that are designing products and telling them what we need, functionally. And we all are there's a lot of hardcore women out there. And so making sure that our voices are being heard where the manufacturers know that we need just as hardcore gear as any other angler out there. And so it's just a continual push. And that's what, I think that's one thing that sets United Women on the Fly and iFishiBelong apart from so many other women's groups and whatnot, is like we're actually having these conversations and pushing for them. And that's what we're going to continue to do until we see this change.
Gotcha. Well, I want to talk about some of these events. And we were just out at one of our events, and shout out to the Driftless Angler, met Jerry and Matt in person. It was amazing because, you go into their shop and it's not huge, it's, and they have like one side, they got a bunch of men's clothes and women's clothes on the other side. It seems like they got things covered, but Jerry, both of them, Jerry and Matt, but I want to give a shout out to Jerry because she's just awesome. It was really cool. She's so sweet, and it was just made the trip amazing. So first off that on Jerry, and then the event. So where are you headed? Maybe talk about that, because I know Trout Routes is kind of helping to, get some of the word out on these, or working with you guys. Talk about that a little bit. Where are you heading over the next year? We're kind of getting into November right now.
Well, this year we had 4 great events. Our goal is to we're always thinking about inclusion. And so that doesn't just mean like inviting and including all people. It also means being inclusive to different locations, right? Like, because not everybody can go to Colorado, or not everybody can go to Montana. So having events in locations that are, kind of diverse for all geographic areas in the United States. So this year, I actually just got back from New York. In Wilmington, New York, I did a co-host event with Rachel Finn.
Oh, yeah.
And so we did New York this year. We did Montana, North Carolina, and Oregon. And Trout Routes has been awesome because they were our scholarship sponsor for all of the iFishiBelong Fish and Hang events for 2024, which meant that we divvied out a bunch of scholarships in order to give to certain folks for financial, kind of assistance to come to these events, to hire a guide. We do workshops, so different educational independent angler workshops. So trying to just provide financial assistance, but also knowledge and empower these folks that receive the scholarships, just with the knowledge and know-how of how to become an independent angler. So those events, I think this year we might have had like 286 people show up this year. It was good.
Wow,
it was
that's huge.
Almost a 25% increase from 2023. So pretty cool. And next year we're looking at, we really are looking at trying to include and increase our urban locations. And so we're trying to bring all people to different, to these events. We need to make sure that we're really creating or looking at spaces and locations that are easy to get to for all people, right? Like West Yellowstone's not the easiest location for somebody to get to. It's expensive to fly to Bozeman. It's still a 2-hour drive. So we're really trying to be mindful on that. So looking at possibly doing one in LA And then maybe Atlanta, Minneapolis, something, maybe even New York City. How cool would that be?
Yeah.
And then we're looking at Durango, Colorado, and Oregon again. So we partner with the Deschutes River Alliance for their Trout Fest in May. And so we do that, and it's cool to like bring people there. They get free education. You're fishing the Deschutes River. It's a great location. And then we do this year in West Yellowstone, we're actually going to be collaborating with the Wretched Mess event, which is actually now going to be happening in September. So it's kind of spey related, which I love, so selfishly, I'm stoked about that. But it's also trying to include iFishiBelong into events of fly fishing, different events that are already happening where we can help raise awareness of who we are, but also help people come to a time where they can get free education. They, can get live music and that kind of stuff too. So coming for not just a fish and hang event.
Right. Yeah. Learning some stuff while there. How is Trout Fest? So are you going to do that again this next year?
Yeah, we are. So Oregon was incredible. The Deschutes River is a really hard river to fish. And
yeah, it is.
So it's very similar. Living in Spokane, like Spokane is very similar to the Deschutes River. It's hard to fish. We have the same fish, all the things. But with the Trout Fest, it's such a great event. It's all right in downtown Maupin. So I love that it supports local, bringing money into the local economy. Tons of education. I mean, if you want to learn from some of the best fly casters, learning about fishing techniques, learning about bugs from Rick. Oh my gosh.
Oh, Rick Hafele's there?
Yeah, he's on the board for DRA. So I could geek out so much. Like, it's amazing. And this year iFishiBelong collaborated with DRA to do a casting kind of 101 and then a more advanced casting lessons. And we had Tim Rajeff lead the advanced, and then we had Tom Larimer lead the beginner. Like, it was amazing. And then so we're just trying to really bring all of these industry folks together too, to just keep pushing people to get better, but not only with angling, but also understand the importance of why we're out here. And that is, of course, to take care of and be a conservationist for our natural resources, right? So trying to do that angling / conservation mode, because they, hand in hand, like they all are a part of each other. They have this relationship. So yeah, the Trout Fest is awesome. So anybody that is looking next year, it's in Maupin.
When do you hold that? What time of year is that typically?
It'll be the very last weekend. I think it's like May 28th through June 1st.
Oh, perfect. Just for the salmon fly hatch.
Yes, the salmon fly hatch is out. You can still trout spey. There were so many fish being caught. And I do a thing, I get a permit with BLM. And so we do a community fish, like 20 of us will go out and fish together. And most of us caught fish. It was really cool, but it's just a great way for people that maybe don't have a community or don't have a fishing partner, but are kind of curious about it, that they can come and be a part of a greater event, meet new folks that are like-minded, and, kind of come and feel welcomed. And that's the biggest part, is we want people to find community and be a part of it. Yeah, it's really cool.
Right. How do you do the outreach, and how do you find the people that are maybe the women, the other people that aren't the white guy sort of thing?
Yeah, it's all, social media is one of our biggest things. And it's just, as we're 8 years in now with United Women Love Fly, we've definitely built a community with the women fly fishing kind of, anglers, the fly anglers. So that's pretty easy now. Now we're just trying to identify and really be intentional on who else can we partner with? What other organizations, what other groups, what other, nonprofits, what other corporations can we start to partner with that's having other events and that might be interested in trying to partner with us, but how can we reach their community? And then also, how can they find and be a part of ours? So it's really being intentional with our outreach and with our partnerships on looking at other organizations and groups that are out there already doing the work, they already have their own community. So why not? We don't need to reinvent the wheel. Let's work together and make sure that we can and do it together. Yeah. So that's kind of that's our next steps, is building those relationships and collaborating and working smarter, not harder, kind of thing.
Yep. That makes sense. And the kids, talk about that a little bit, because that's always a big one. You hear these stories about how kids fishing has been going downhill and maybe that's changed. But how did you get involved in the fish ground? Do you know a lot about it? Or are you involved in that pretty heavily?
Yeah, it's so Becca Sue Klein, she's a phenomenal woman that is she's out of Atlanta, Georgia. And 5 years ago, actually, they just had their 5-year anniversary they originally started this event called All Girls Fish. And United Women Fly was invited to be a founding partner of All Girls Fish. So myself and Jen Ripple, who used to own the Dun magazine. So her and I, we went in 2019 and we were a part of this incredible event. And basically the gist of the day is that we have a bunch of young girls that get together. We kind of talk about, fishing, why it's important. We talk about how to set up a rod, how to fly cast. We do knots, we do bugs, we do all these different educational stations basically. And these are kids anywhere from 10 to 18. So, or sometimes younger, like sometimes 8-year-olds. So for me, not having kids and then trying to teach an 8-year-old, it's like, oh gosh, how do I talk to them to make it fun and they're listening to me and not just, wanting to jab the bugs or whatever. So we do that for half the day. And then that second half, everybody goes out and fishes. So they take all that information and they have river guides. And so you have a river mentor that's a one-on-one river mentor and you get out and you fish. And so that's been going on. And, Becca Sue Klein is just this kind of visionary. She's an incredible woman. And she decided also that, rather than it being all girls fish, it needs to be all kids fish. Let's bring all kids together. This is such a great program, a great event that we can't just limit this to young girls. And so that's where kind of how all kids fish happened. And so there's 3 different events in Georgia. They go through the Chattahoochee Riverkeeper, which is an incredible organization, really fighting for, clean water and environmental activism. And so they do an event in March, and then they do a all kind of Jedi-focused, scholarship-based event in downtown Atlanta in Piedmont Park. So it's, they partner with the YMCA and other local organizations to bring kids in that would never even imagine that they could go out to a pond and fish, And so it's kind of cool to open up their eyes to learn that they can be something that they don't see, right? They may not see their parents out there, or they may not see, someone else teaching that looks like them. But All Kids Fish has done a really good job at trying to bring instructors that look like all people. And so, bringing queer women out, or bringing a transgender person, or bringing Black, instructors. And these are the mentors. So these young kids that whatever they look like or whoever they are, they can see themselves being that mentor in the future. So it's really cool. Like I get goosebumps about it because it's awesome to try to show these kids that they can be the future and those leaders, in fishing, or conservation.
Right. Are you going to be implementing that program? Is the plan to spread that out over, throughout the country over time?
Yeah. So our plan is right now we're working on an event for fall of 2025 in Pennsylvania, just outside of Philadelphia. That's the plan. So we're working on that one, we're still a young nonprofit. So we're working on what's our true capacity? I'm a visionary and I'm just like, well, I just want to do that.
Right. Take on the world.
I want to take on the world for sure. One angler at a time. But we have to kind of be mindful of that. We have to be mindful of that. So yeah, Philadelphia, and then just slowly expand it. I would love for it to work with the Water Alliance, because it's important to also, again, work on conservation and trying to pair, and also other groups that are out there, and truly working with groups and organizations that don't look like the norm, because we want all of these kids to feel welcomed and see themselves. We want them to be what they don't see. And that's our goal, So it's really, and all because of Becca Sue Klein. So she is actually battling stage 4 cancer right now. And for us, it's just a way to keep her legacy alive, because she's been such a, like I said, visionary in this. And she is the most giving, amazing woman that there is. And so it's a no-brainer for us to just continue her work and her name and just what she's done. She's too. really incredible. Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. How has it been? You've done this nonprofit thing, I guess, United Women on the Fly, and now this. Is this pretty easy for you now, or is it still a lot of work starting up a nonprofit?
Oh my God, I feel like an imposter.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a visionary and I am a dreamer. I mean, I'm a spey angler. I'm a steelheader. I'm a dreamer, right? I'm dreaming every cast is going to be a steelhead, right? So I'm learning to become a better leader. I'm learning that there's so much I don't know. I'm learning that my team is awesome. I'm learning to build a team that's way smarter than me. And the fact that KPIs and metrics and data. I'm like, oh my God, I have we just went over our budget today. And I'm like, it's just, these are all things that I never considered with United on the Fly because I always just paid for it myself. I always just, did it because I'm not a good person to ask for money or anything. So I'm learning to build a team, have a team around me that's way smarter and way has different superpowers than I do. And we all just kind of work together and mold. And the board's incredible. And so many women and so many folks have just stepped up and they're doing the work. And we have this amazing Allie who started Ladies and Weighties, who is now our treasurer, who's a CPA. So she's talk about budgets and numbers nerd. She's awesome, And so, yeah, we're just learning. It's a learning process. It's a lot of work. And yeah, it's a lot of work.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. Well, I want to hear you mention the spey, and I know I saw that out there. What was it like? When did you get into that, and what was your transition like getting into the spey?
Well, I wish I would have. So anybody out there that's listening to this, if you are a single hand caster and you're scared to get into spey, don't be scared. Just do it. I wish that I learned how to spey cast with a two-handed rod way before I learned how to single hand cast, because my nickname is Top Hand Hodson, and it's all because I am, I do my accelerate to stop and my forward cat, I use my hand. So it's hard to relearn, so anybody out there, just do it. Go spey fishing, but or two-handed fishing. It's been my first steelhead. My first fish on a two-handed rod was in 2012. So I'm 12 years into it.
Yeah. Oh wow, a long time ago.
Yeah. I have some experience now. My off-shoulder cat can still needs a lot of work. It's just like anything, you just have to just get out there and do it and practice it. But I would say for me, it's my number one way to fish. If I can swing a fly, and I'll skate a fly. I'll go anywhere. I'll go top water, then, just a little wet fly, and then I'll go deep with a Skagit, So I just, I love to work the water column. I love to work the system. I'll go through a run several times. For me, walking into the water, my feet are planted in the ground. I am grounded with Mother Nature, it's just it feels good. And just, even if I don't catch anything, actually this last weekend, I ended up landing 2 steelhead. So, and one
did?
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's been a while because I kind of waited with the numbers. I'm trying to be ethical also in looking at what the steelhead numbers are. And this is the first year since 2020 that I've actually gone out and steelhead fished and landed 2. So, and one on the
Jeez. Can you talk about the river? Was it a secret river?
No, there's no secret. There's no secrets in fly fishing. Let's be real.
Yeah.
You could tell somebody to go to run mile marker 37.2 and use a 510 Skagit with a T10 10-foot tip and with this fly, and it doesn't matter, right? No, on the snake and on the Grand Rod. So Eastern Washington is, living in Spokane, those are my kind of home waters. And I don't fish the Clearwater very much just because I've never really,
further.
Yeah, it's a little further, but I've never really learned it. I feel like the snake is awesome. And it's crazy to think that you can catch a steelhead on the snake on this giant river, and it's why?
I know.
And you have to dissect it, it's all about just learning to dissect the water and where would these fish be, looking at, what does the current look like? How fast is it? What's the underneath looking like? The basalt shelves. It's pretty easy, actually, when you break it down. You just have to not be overwhelmed by it. And the biggest thing for me too is like my dad and Eric, my husband, they're way better casters than I am. They can cast further, but that doesn't really matter. You know, a lot of the fish are in close. And so you can still pick pockets. Like if I'm behind people and I come through, even on a dry line, it doesn't matter, you know? So, yeah, it's been an awesome journey. And now I'm kind of moving into, you can swing for bass, you can swing for, you know, rainbow trout, you can, you know, so
everything.
Like the Spokane River, it's an amazing trout spey river. Amazing. So why not, you know?
Yeah, little wet flies and like a 4-weight.
Totally. Or an October caddis, skate a chubby. That'll work too, you know?
Right.
And so just learning that for me, my journey started in steelhead, but that's not the end of my journey. My journey is going to be anything that will eat a swung fly, I'm in.
Yeah, you're in. That's so cool. Well, I want to give a quick shout out. I'm not sure if you've heard of it, but we have we're doing some different things with the podcast too since we talked. So we have a couple of hosts that actually I don't host all the episodes anymore. So we have one called In the Bucket. Brian Niska up at the Skeena Spey Lodge. He hosts all of our West Coast steelhead stuff. And he's a spey, like I'm just a chump when it comes to casting a spey rod, but Brian's an excellent caster. And so he's interviewing other people. He typically has like 3 or 4, you know, great, you know, spey anglers. So check that out, In the Bucket. And the other cool thing is he's got the next episode he has coming up is amazing. It's got John McMillan.
Oh, nice.
He's a huge, right, coming up. And he's got Bob Hooten and another guy. And they're going to talk about the steelhead and, you know, everything with what's going on. And so I'm excited for that one in our own podcast network because I'm going to learn a lot about, you know what I mean? But I think I did hear Josh Mills was on recently and he said, yeah, the numbers are up. You know, I mean, they're not up to where they should be. They're not above 200,000 above Bonneville, but the numbers are, you know, they're better than they've been the last few years. So that's great.
Yeah. Well, and what's funny is I was actually at Steelhead Camp with Josh this weekend and
oh, nice.
All folks caught fish. So get out there. You can't catch a steelhead on the swing if you don't fish your fly.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so just get out there. And we are definitely the most optimistic anglers, I would say, steelhead spey anglers, especially those that, you know, but my girlfriend, Bridget, she just caught a really, really beautiful steelhead on a skater, you know, like it can be done. So just, you got to do it. You got to commit and, you know, yeah, just get out there. So the numbers are better and it's, everyone caught fish. So you just got to do it.
Amazing. Cool. Well, this has been great. We got a few more questions for you here, but I want to take it out of here. And we mentioned we love to do our conservation shout out to kind of kick things off as we take it out. Today, we mentioned earlier, it's presented by Trout Routes, who is doing some awesome stuff as we've been putting together some episodes. They are focused on all sorts of cool things. I mean, it feels like diversity, inclusion. We're doing all sorts of really cool stuff. So shout out to Trout Routes. I want to give my little story on Trout Routes this year. We did this road trip. I took the family out. We drove all the way across the country out to Wisconsin. That's where we met up with Jerry. Did some family stuff along the way, but I used Trout Routes. It was really cool because when you go in there, you can search boat ramps and all sorts of other stuff. Well, within there's little things where they'll talk about camping. And so we camped along the way just using Trout Routes. Like we'd find, oh, okay, there's kind of unimproved camping. And so that's what we used a big part of it for. But first, as we kick this off, give us a Trout Routes. How have you used Trout Routes? I know it's got a lot of features, but do you use it much?
I've actually used it for camping too. So in Twin Bridges, I didn't want to camp in the Winston parking lot. So I was like, shoot, I got to find some campgrounds. So just utilize and just saying, you know, find campgrounds around me. Found a really sweet little campground right next to a river. So using it for that. But more importantly, I truly use it for like public versus private land. So I did a month-long road trip this summer through Colorado. And Colorado has a lot of private land.
Right. It's got the laws. It's got those laws that are really restricted, right? Like everything's private.
Yeah. You can't even like anchor. You can't even ink, you know, Wyoming's that way too. And, you know, living in Washington and fishing Idaho, like we don't, ours is high water mark. So it's really understanding that. But fishing the frying pan, it was great because I could look at it. Okay. Am I in private? Am I on public? Like utilizing that. But I think honestly, one of the best features is the gauge stations. So they have all of the data of all the gauge stations, so you can click on it and it tells you where the CFS is, where your flows are, what the water temperature is, if that data is linked to those gauges. So I use that a ton. And so I've been able to kind of in my little, you know, journal be like, okay, well, this Spokane River is at, you know, 5,400. This is a great time to fish this or whatever, just utilizing it. So I use the gauges a lot. And the the thing I like about it is you can mark your waypoints and it's your own thing. So it's never public, right? Because a lot of people are so afraid that, oh, my secret spot's going to get, I don't want anyone to know my spot. Well, on trout routes, it's all private based on your account. So I just mark all my points. So on the snake, I have 7 runs that I like. So I'll do little notes on it. And now I know them. So I don't need to go to my pins. But I just like that I can keep that data there. And the final thing is I like being able to download a certain area. So if you're offline, I was in New York, for instance, I knew that I was going to be in and out of service because the Adirondacks does not have the greatest service. Same with North Carolina. That service is horrible. Even it doesn't matter if you have Verizon or AT&T. And so you can download a certain section of the map to be offline. So if you're offline, it'll always show you in your location and you can have access to all of that data. And then if let's say you're no longer in North Carolina, you can just basically get rid of it, delete that downloaded data, and then re-download another area. So I love that aspect of it too. It's a great program and super user-friendly, easy to use. And in all honesty, Trout Routes has been so supportive of United on the Fly and now of iFishiBelong, as far as, they're putting their money where their mouth is.
Yeah.
And so they actually, like I mentioned, they were the primary scholarship sponsor for our 2024 iFishiBelong Fish and Hangs. And so, they're doing it. They're helping us. They're bringing people. They're giving, all the scholarship applicants got free pro accounts. So they've been so supportive of us in just trying to make change that I'm really, really happy to be in community with them. It's been a really great relationship.
Love it. That's awesome. Well, the one thing we haven't touched on fully, but just you mentioned it before, the kind of the black and brown folks.
Yeah.
And maybe you could talk about that program a little bit. Does that seamlessly integrate with everything we've talked about so far today?
Yeah, totally. For sure. It's Ubuntu Fly Anglers. So it is a program that was, again, co-founded by Bob Bartlett, who lives here in Spokane, Washington, and then Carl Crawford, who's on the FFI board and in Southern California. So he's a casting instructor, just a genuine awesome human. And so really cool. Ubuntu was founded about a year ago. And again, it's just to advocate and support Black and brown anglers. Truly, it's to try to change the complexion of the outdoors. And they just did an event in Spokane 2 weeks ago, and it was called, their event is We Are Here, right? To make the invisible visible. And it was a really, really powerful event. I actually wish that all industry folks and community, but I truly wish the industry could have been at this Saturday night banquet to just see Bob calls it the wisdom circle, which is the leadership team, kind of their team come together, talk about who they are, why it's so important to be shown, and why it's so important to continue to advocate for Black and brown anglers. And so Bob is doing this, he does an on the reel. It's actually an Instagram live conversation right now where we're actually looking at moving it to a podcast because these conversations are so deep and so important. And Bob's 75, so the stress of having an IG live is stressful. Right?
Oh, right. Too much. I know.
So having it as a podcast is just going to be better because these conversations need to be available to be heard for the rest of our lives. And so Bob he has his PhD in sociology. He was a professor at Gonzaga, a professor at Eastern Washington, and he is a people person. And he just the way he interviews and the way he brings out conversations and it's conversations about fishing. It's conversations about, these folks that are in the industry, but then it's more importantly, conversations about how these people, how they're being treated, how they live in the world of, kind of a very world that doesn't look like them in fishing, Right. And so, and these conversations are really, really important. And I think we all can learn so much by hearing these experiences. And, if we can take one thing away is knowing that, these things that people have experienced or, what they overcome is we can do better, And so I think that's for me is just how can I be a better person or a better partner or a better, companion or community member to all anglers. And that's where these conversations are going. And so lots of fun stuff in the future. It's called On the Reel, and it's like real conversations, right? About right now it's specifically for Black and brown anglers in fishing, and all of it's been industry folks or people that have, kind of the wisdom leadership circle. And like Ashley White was just on, he has a great story, just a hard story, actually. It's, very emotional, meaningful conversation. So it's incredible that iFishiBelong can somehow, be a part of that and help whatever, me personally as a white woman, however I can help behind the scenes, to support this, because it's so important for us all to come together and make change.
What is the name of the URL for that website? Do they have a website?
Yeah, if you go to ubuntuflyanglers.com. So, and that'll take you to iFishiBelong, but it's ubuntuflyanglers.com. Yeah. I'm the web designer, so if you have issues with it, I'm sorry. I'm a nurse. No, just kidding.
No, it looks good. I like your fly. Yeah, you got
so I'm the technology person too. I'm the Jill of all trades.
You do all that, really? So you do all the tech on the website stuff?
Yeah. Oh yeah. All the graphic design, all the things.
Amazing.
So a call to action is, if you want to volunteer, please send me an email. No, just kidding.
Okay. And your email is, tell us again so we don't forget.
Yeah. Heather@iFishiBelong.org. So we're looking for folks to help, because we need everybody, to help be a part of this. And I want to be that visionary, not necessarily the website person. So yeah.
Yeah, perfect. That's awesome. And so you mentioned podcasts. I'm always interested. I know you guys, didn't you start a podcast with Jen or something like that?
No, never.
Fade?
We never started one.
You thought about it?
We thought about it probably, just like I've always thought about a nonprofit. It just scared me. So, it just the work that it entails. But now that I'm editing videos and audio anyways, with all of this stuff, it's a no-brainer, like, to move these conversations to a podcast. So yeah, that's kind of our goal with Ubuntu.
Yeah, you should. Well, let me know when you get that out. I'll definitely help get the word out on that for sure. And then the Done magazine, I hadn't heard about that either. Did Jen pass that on or wrap it up? Is that not out there?
COVID was an interesting, specifically for publications and publishers and all the things. So I think as of right now, it's may still be online, but yeah, it's kind of dissolved a bit. Just COVID. It was hard on a lot of things. So
that was hard. How was that on? Just like everybody else, I guess it was. We all kind of got through it. And did it take a little toll on you, your programs, everything you got going?
Yeah, because it kind of, our whole basis is community. And so, to be able to be in a room or on a river with people, we had to stop that. And so it definitely took a toll. But, what I would say is Zoom. Now we have Zoom meetings, and we've grown so much virtually, and we can talk to each other and see each other, that I feel like it's brought us closer in the fact that we're together, even though we're not together in a room per se, right? But we're virtually together. So I would say it's kind of just developed new things.
In a weird way.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's true. Yeah, definitely the Zoom put everybody on. So now it actually is, even though you can't, in person is for sure, there's never going to be anything like that, but as good as that. But Zoom is not bad, not a bad second. And, and it saves money too, right? You're never going to be able to travel or do everything. And at least now.
Board meetings, we don't have a budget to bring us all together for board meetings. We just hop on virtually. And it's really allowed us to have and share more education. So that was one thing, is really trying to, identify new leaders that could help teach. Because if you think about it, we all started somewhere in our fishing journey, right? Anybody that's an expert at whatever they do, whether it's spey or tarpon or whatever, tying knots or whatever it might be, casting. If you're an expert caster, you had to start somewhere. And so it was really fun for us to identify those future new experts. And so how can we, now we have this platform, how can we empower these, new young anglers to teach and hopefully be the next experts? And that was, kind of providing or cultivating leadership opportunities. That's an easy way to do it, is not always just looking for the experts, but who are the future experts? And that was one thing that we were able to do. It's really cool.
That's awesome. Did you know Rick Hafele before, or did you just meet him?
No, I was total fangirl. And he's like, who is this girl coming up to me, right? And because I'm such a bug nerd.
Oh, you are?
Oh my gosh. If it's not swinging a fly, I am like dissecting entomology, and dry
Nice.
is obviously my second choice for sure. But I'm a nerd. When it comes to it, I am so nerdy. So I did not know him. He probably doesn't even know who I am, even though I see him now all the time. But I'm just like, oh my, I nerd out. Like I'm taking so many notes. He came to Spokane, gosh, like 10 or 12 years ago to one of our, like the Spokane fly fishers. He came and presented, and I literally took like pages of notes about everything, and I still have them. I still write, it's cool to, and he's so giving, like with ERA. I want to just hire him for like 2 days to be a total nerd. And it's really interesting too to understand like all of the different insects are dying off, or they're less prevalent, or certain
Oh,
insects
right.
are more prevalent based on, specifically in the Deschutes River, like water temperatures and, just sediment, like what's the sediment pollution in the river. So learning all of that is really, to me, very, very fascinating. So I'm a total fangirl of Rick for sure.
Yeah. Well, the Columbia system is amazing because you're there on the Deschutes, and then you keep going up the river, and eventually they run up towards you where you are, right? It
Yeah.
turns, and I guess the Spokane. I'm trying to think what that flow does. That flow into what's that go into?
In the Columbia.
Oh, yeah. So it does directly.
It goes directly. So at one point in our worlds, I mean, we were one of the most prolific king salmon fisheries, steelhead fisheries. All of the indigenous people would come in to Spokane, like the Spokane tribe. I mean, the Spokane was where it's at. And with all like Grand Coulee Dam with 9 Mile, there were a lot of dams that were put in. So now it's so cool. Our fish on the Spokane River are also native wild red band trout. So the exact same species as the Deschutes River. And
Oh, wow.
we tag them in Spokane, and they still go to the ocean. They just have no way to come back, right? And so we have,
Wow.
steelhead genes in our fishery, and we only have 300 fish per mile though. So it's a challenging river, but it's truly like when you hook into a red band trout on the Spokane in Nordstrom Hole, like you literally put in, it's such an awesome river. You put in right at downtown at the falls, and you see Nordstrom's, like literally, and see, it's like you're in Colorado fishing the blue at the outlet malls, So you see Nordstrom's, you see AMC Theater, and you're catching wild native red band trout. Like you have to pinch yourself. It's so cool. To me, it's like, I can't even believe that I have this opportunity. It's just
Right there.
yeah, and then you literally go around a bend, and it's like you're in the middle of nowhere. It's
Yeah.
this remote. It's so wild, and it's all downtown Spokane. So, yeah, it's a really cool fishery. Yeah, it's really great.
And is that in the Columbia? So it's the Spokane flows in. Is that above Grand Coulee Dam? Is that what's going on there?
It's above. Yep.
Yeah. So that's a whole, because Grand Coulee was the one that no fish ladder, right?
Okay. No fish ladder. Yeah, big one. Yeah. So, yeah, kind of Lake Roosevelt. You have your Spokane arm, and then you have Spokane River. Spokane then goes into Lake Coeur d'Alene, and then the St. Joe, all of the North Idaho drainages flow into the Coeur d'Alene, and then the Coeur d'Alene, the outlet is the Spokane River. Yeah, the start of it. And it's actually really cool. Gosh, it's probably 8 or so years ago. I was fishing with a girlfriend, and she hooked a bull trout. And
Wow.
yeah, and this was a big deal to hook a bull trout in the Spokane River over our giant falls. And the thought was, and we of course kept it wet, kept in the water, but Fish and Wildlife were really interested to know where we fished, where we caught it. They want to see all the photos. And the thought was that it had probably traveled all the way from St. Joe River, which is in North Idaho, all the way across Lake Coeur d'Alene, which is giant, down the Spokane, like the start of Spokane, over like a couple dams down below into the lower part of the Spokane where the aquifer is, where most of our trout are. And that's where we caught it. So pretty cool yeah. And we have some cutthroat, we have some browns, but it's mostly native red bands. And then small, unfortunately, the upper part is, our aquifer is on the lower part. So the upper part tends to be more smallmouth, just some bass and whatnot. Sure. Some pike, because that's what Lake Coeur d'Alene, and then they come, so there's some of that is in there too. But we have other native fish too that are in the river. It's cool.
It's a cool area for sure. Yeah, Spokane. I haven't spent much time in the city, but Josh talked about that on that episode, the fact that you're within a couple hours any direction of great, the beach, Montana, streams, the Clearwater, you're right there. And even Canada. I mean, just go to probably a few hours up to Canada, right?
Yeah, north, like Bonners Ferry, it's only about 2 hours or so. So yeah, you're about 2.5 hours from Canada. I'm closer to Missoula by 2 hours than I am to Seattle.
Wow.
So it's kind of, if you put it in that perspective, because it's 5 hours to get to Seattle, it's 3 hours to get to Missoula. So you have all of Western Montana, all those fisheries, as well. So it's kind of an outdoor person's playground, honestly. And as a nurse, our number one industry is the healthcare. So I kind of, yeah. And I always joke that, I'm saving lives, or nursing saves lives, and so does fly fishing. So I'm just trying to do my part in the world, kind of thing.
Right. Well, somebody said that on the podcast here one time about how, it is fly fishing. We're not saving babies or, curing cancer or whatever. But I mean, you kind of are. I mean, actually, that's what you are with your day job. Yeah.
Exactly. I'm mending all of that together to make change in the world, for sure, both health-wise and, community-wise.
Pretty amazing.
Yeah.
This is awesome, Heather. Well, I think we'll leave it there, and we'll send everybody out to iFishiBelong.org if they want to follow up with you. And we'll definitely be in touch with you for sure. With Trout Routes on board and everything, I'm going to hopefully get out to some events and keep up with you. So I appreciate all your time today and keeping the good work going.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, quick call to action. You heard it from Heather. If you can, go over right now, check in at the website, iFishiBelong.org. You can also send Heather an email if you want to get involved anytime. She would love to hear from you. If you're out there, let her know you heard this on the podcast and you want to help and get involved. We're going to be out there as well this year. All right, if you get a chance, if you haven't followed the show, you want to get that next episode we have going, you can do that right now. On your app of choice. And if you have any feedback for me or have an episode topic, send me an email, dave@wetflyswing.com. If you reach out to me right now, I will put together an episode for you. This is your chance. Let me know. I'd love to hear where you're coming from. We got a few trips, a few big trips going on here. One quick shout out to Mike Schultz. We're heading out there in the summer coming up here of this 2025 year, but we're likely doing it more than just once. Smallmouth bass. Check in with me if you want to find out more. I'm getting out of here right now. Hope you have a great afternoon. Hope you have a wonderful evening or a very splendid morning, wherever you are in the world. Look forward to talking to you soon. See you on that next episode.
Thanks for listening to the Wet Fly Swing Fly Fishing Show. For notes and links from this episode, visit wetflyswing.com.